Yeah, just wait. I'm trying to figure this shit out, but I can't figure it out.
What, the chat?
Yeah. There's only nobody's on right now except
Yeah.
Brett and David.
It's just gonna be Dan and Karen that are outsiders. Jay may or may not join.
Okay.
So,
Dan and Karen are coming on?
Karen for sure. Danny said that she was gonna be participating. I didn't confirm with Brett on Dan, but he may. So, I don't know.
Well, that just means she's...
Huh?
Make sure that mic is off. Hold on.
Which one?
Mine.
Gary, can you hear me?
Good evening, Ms. Ramos.
Hi, Gary. Does everything sound okay?
Yeah, you sound really good. Coming across very strong.
Awesome. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Gary, can you hear me?
Hey, Mr. Neal, how are you?
Good, good.
Yep, coming across nice and loud.
All right, I'm checked in.
Okay.
How were
It's
you?
fine. I'm like, well, I figured,
I was waiting.
no one ever listens to me.
I was waiting.
So it should work now. So give me just a second. So your microphone is on right now.
Okay, there you go.
I'm gonna turn it off. Hold on.
And so all I have to do is press space bar, right?
Good evening, Miss Wynn.
Good evening, Mr. Allen.
You're coming across nice and loud. Perfect.
Thanks to you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Good afternoon, Ms. Shandlin.
Hi, Gary. Good afternoon. Is my volume okay?
Yes, very strong. Sounds good.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Shy.
Can you hear me, Gary?
Yes, you're coming across 5 by.
All right, I will mute.
Copy that. Good evening, Mr. Hawkins.
Now you can hear me.
Yes, sir, we can definitely hear you. I'm going to change your name on the screen to Mr. Hawkins, though.
Oh, yeah. My daughter uses this for her Zoom meetings. Can you change it?
Copy that, already changed.
Oh, good.
But
Thank you very much, sir.
But her picture is going to stay up there for you. I can't change it on my end.
That's all right. Yeah. That's terrible.
You got a hot mic, Mr. Hawkins.
Thank you.
I think that's a good question. Because I need to ask that real quick. I think Brett is giving a bit of a question.
Good afternoon, Mr. Eli.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. You're coming across just 5 by. Hey, Mr. Rush, how are you this evening?
I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm doing just fine, thank you.
Oh, that's good.
Good evening, Miss White. Good afternoon, Miss White. Good afternoon, Dr. Vieira.
Hey, good afternoon, Gary.
You're coming across 5 by. It sounds good.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Nean.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir. Coming across 5 by.
Thank you.
Welcome to the special board meeting of the Antelope Valley Union High School District. Please be advised that the Board of Trustees are participating in this special board meeting April 10th, 2021 with teleconferencing. The meeting is being recorded. Only items on the agenda will be addressed and all actions will be taken by a roll call vote. I would like to ask board members to respond to the following question as I call your name. Are you able to hear our proceedings on your end? Mr. Johnson?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Perrell? Dr. Ruffin? They are both absent. Ms. Nguyen?
Yes, I am.
Yes. Mr. Rush?
Yes.
Ms. McGrady? Yes. So please stand, place your right hand over your heart and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Moving forward from AVTA, Mr. Dan Shy. Mr. Shy?
Ms. McGrady, can you hear me?
I sure can.
Good afternoon.
Good
The
afternoon.
topic of today's meeting is perhaps the most controversial issue to face school boards across this great country of ours in my entire career. It has been covered extensively in the national press. A topic this contentious leaves politicians with little room for compromise. I want to commend this board for having the political willpower to face this decision head on. You were elected to make tough decisions, and I do not envy the position you are in at all. This is not an issue that can be taken lightly. As you may be aware, I hear from my members on a daily basis on just about every issue facing this district. They are not afraid to tell me what they are thinking and feeling. They are not afraid to express their displeasure about topics of great concern to them. Although AVTA has no official position on this issue, I will say that in the days leading up to this board meeting, I've heard nothing directly from my members on this issue. If there was a groundswell of opposition to having law enforcement on our campuses, trust me, I would have heard about it. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. From CSEA, Ms. Karen White. Ms. White?
Can you hear me all right?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you. So good afternoon, Board President Ms. McGrady, fellow board members, Student Board Member Mr. Johnson, Dr. Vieira, Board Cabinet, Mr. Furno, and Ms. Orozco. I do hope that everybody has been able to enjoy this beautiful day to its fullest. It's wonderful, a wonderful day to be outdoors. And, with this type of a day, it all gives us a very good feeling for hope and of accomplishment. So I hope you can enjoy the remainder of it. This afternoon, you have the option to either approve this agreement with our Sheriff's Department or not. I sincerely hope that you will choose to approve this contract and continue to provide another safety measure for our district. This additional effort will provide and deliver protection and assistance to our schools, for our students, teachers, staff, any guests visiting our campuses, and for our communities that surround our schools. I know that a variety of concerns and possible, chances to change and other options were brought forth in the committee meeting and discussions, along with the in-depth statistic studies that became available. In those meetings, some felt that the sheriff's presence hindered them from speaking freely, yet others felt that all parties involved needed to be included. This was afforded and gave us answers to what actions had or have changed in the way things have been handled in the past, and transitioned into affording a different decision, thus providing the ability to move more towards more positive outcome for everyone involved in their futures. Statistics are good to have, but you must use them properly in channeling your efforts to make changes that will improve those statistics to benefit your future. With them, you have the ability to isolate problems, correct faults and imperfections, as well as know your strengths and improve on areas that are working well, but have the potential to work better. I want to thank the deputies who attended those meetings and provided information that wasn't in the statistics we received, as well as the students, teachers, administration, community members that were present, as well as the classified staff that spoke to their experiences, both good and bad, expressed their concerns, and gave consideration to possible solutions. All remembering that we have to start somewhere and work together to make any meaningful and positive changes. Even though this contract is in short duration, it's the first step in the right direction and provides the opportunity to show that statistic courses can be changed to a positive process for our students and schools. We cannot continue to support or protect our campuses unless you give this contract a chance. This would be the same consideration you had given anyone wanting to change or improve, and how we've worked together with efforts to keep everyone safe and healthy in our COVID-19 struggle. To have a better future, you don't give up. You may look back, but you look forward on how you can improve. Please don't close the door on the positive aspects that this contract can supply to our schools and those in them. To piggyback on what Mr. Shai said, I have not heard anything negative concerning this contract or any of our sheriffs being on campuses. Only praise, and also the ability for them to give them insight for trainings that all sheriffs are able to receive and have them prepared for anything that might come up. So I thank you for listening and for your consideration on this very important issue.
Thank you so much. We move forward to F, the Los Angeles Sheriff Department School Resource Deputy Department program. At this time, the public was invited to address the board. I would like to state that we have a large number of messages from the public. We will most definitely go over the 20-minute time period. Board, what would you like to do? A, listen for 20 minutes, post the others with the minutes, or B, listen to all and allow our public to have their voices heard on this matter today. So we'll take a vote. Mr. Johnson, what would you like, A or B?
I would like to hear them all.
Okay, thank you. And is Ms. Perrell with us yet? Okay, hearing no. Dr. Ruffin, did you join us? No. Ms. Nguyen, would you like to hear them all or would you like just 20 minutes?
Ms. McGrady, I would like to hear them all.
Thank you. Mr. Rush, what would you prefer?
I'd like to hear them.
Okay, and I would like to hear them all. So that's a majority. We will be hearing them all. So let us begin.
The first comment this afternoon is from Chris Bellingham. This is not a correct use of funds. From Kurt Steffen. My name is Kurt Steffen, and as a 15-year veteran teacher of the AVUHSD, I want to express my support for the continued relationship with the Sheriff's Department. Having a deputy on campus available to respond to certain circumstances that arise on our campus and to just have a presence on our campus is vital to the safety and success of students, staff, and visitors. In many circumstances, having a deputy on campus to respond when needed is important and essential to campus safety. The safety of students and staff should be a top priority of the school district. And without law enforcement's presence on campus, school sites are not safe, period. When students and staff are not safe, we cannot focus on our top priority, the academic growth and development of our students. I urge you to renew the contract with the Sheriff's Department ASAP in order to continue to keep this important safety protocol in place on the campuses of AVUHSD. Thank you for your time and willingness to consider this important issue in regards to keeping our kids safe. From Barbara Henderson. To the esteemed board of the Antelope Valley Union High School District, I would like to ask that you vote today to approve a contract with the Sheriff's Department to have deputies on campuses. I currently have 2 grandchildren attending high school in your district, and my children work in the district. As a parent and grandparents, we worry constantly about our children and grandchildren. And although this would not take away all of our fears, it does help to know that the Antelope Valley Union High School District is doing everything possible to ensure the safety of their students. Please put our student security first and give all of us who are sending family members back on campus Monday, April 12th, the knowledge that you will continue to watch out and protect them despite some negative pushback from community members. Thank you for your time and good luck to all of our students and staff on Monday. From Kara Johnson. Dear Antelope Valley Union High School District board members, I would like to thank you for taking the time today to address the contract with the Sheriff's Department. As a teacher of this district for over 25 years, I take pride in what we as a district have accomplished. I was shocked when I learned that the district would not be putting the renewal of the contract on the board agenda before students were returning to school. We have always put our students first and made their safety a top priority. I have always had a positive interaction with our school deputies and find them an asset to our students and staff. As a parent, I was hesitant to send my children back to our campuses without them. Not only does having a deputy on campus help to ensure a safe and secure learning environment, but it makes them more familiar with the ins and outs of the building structures, which are beneficial if any danger should arise. In the event of any emergency that may occur on our campuses, they are known to have a more efficient and effective response, having such a presence on a campus, as well as we all saw with their help during the Highland shooting incident. Please vote in favor of the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department School Resource Deputy Program and continue to ensure the safety and security of our students and staff members. From a Highland High School student. Dear Board, I am writing this urging the district to agree to a contract with the Sheriff's Department for the remainder of this school year to keep our students safe. I was driving to school my freshman year when I received a text not to go because there was a shooter on campus. I was immediately brought to tears, and it was a day I will never forget. For weeks after this incident, my friends and I were scared to go to school, but we felt protected from our staff, security, and our wonderful deputy. Our deputy worked so hard to make us all feel comfortable and become part of our school community. Students' learning should be a top priority, and the best way to keep our students safe is to have a deputy on campus. The deputies are vital to student safety against threats, as well as helping students out in different ways. Many of my friends over the years have asked the deputies questions about their careers and what to do because they too wanted to be in law enforcement. I always found our deputies as friendly people that wanted to help kids succeed. I hope that the contract is approved so that students can return to campus safely, especially in today's climate of hostility. From Addie Johnson. Dear AVUHSD School Board, as a student at Pete Knight High School, it arises great concern to me that there will be no sheriffs on campus. Sheriffs have only made me feel safer and calmer at school. I don't have to stress about the idea that someone could walk into my classroom and shoot me. I don't have to stress about getting harmed. And lastly, I don't have to stress about being in a situation that makes me uncomfortable. I find much gratitude to the sheriffs who are willing to help find ways to make me feel better about going on campus. It hesitates me to return when I hear other people think it would be safer to attend school without a sheriff. If people cared for feelings, we wouldn't be in school for 6 hours, we wouldn't have tests, and we wouldn't have 800,000 people kill themselves a year, making it the second leading cause of death in the world. I choose safety over feelings. Please remember the students who don't feel comfortable attending class when there is no officer protecting their campus. Thank you. Two comments were submitted from Dahlia and George Hurtado. I would like to keep my child safe and fully support deputies on AVUHSD campuses. From Juanette Colors. Classrooms will not even have the standard number of students present when schools open, and with less than half the number of students present over the next 3 months. How dare you anticipate the need for the presence of law enforcement on our campuses at all? Our students and families deserve better than to be viewed as criminals and are far more deserving of services to assist with making healthier transitions back into the school environment, such as counselors and mental health workers. We are truly in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, and I'm appalled that you only see the need for deputies with guns on and around our children, opposed to counselors. Your rationale is sickening and a true testament to how many of you view our children. You should be ashamed for having such low regard for our students and community members. I demand that you stop and #cancel the contract. From Dorian Stiles. Hello, I would like to share my experience with school police. My school police officer was very kind to me. He helped me with homework and helped me stay out of trouble. He was like a father figure to me. This was very nice because my own father is locked up and has never been in my life. My police officer helped me graduate high school. I am now attending college at ABC. I think police need to stay in schools to help kids like me. A lot of us need good fathers and mother figures in our lives. Thank you. From Jonathan Goschel. Hello, board members. As a teacher of 15 years in this district, the safety and security of all students, teachers, and staff is very important to me. This is why I ask that you please reinstate the contract with the Sheriff's Department. Having a deputy on campus is essential in the case of dangerous people and emergencies. Jeopardizing our school safety due to people with an agenda would be a big mistake. Thank you for your consideration. From Ariana White. Do not renew the contract with the Sheriff's Department. Our students deserve care and services, not criminalization. Please vote no on the proposed contract renewal. From Myra Gutierrez. I support deputies on AVUHSD campuses. From Christy Yazgul. Good afternoon. Thank you, school board members, President Jill McGrady, Vice President John Rush, Clerk Danita Wynn, Superintendent Dr. David Vieira, cabinet members, and other vital district employees. Meeting on a Saturday is not ideal, but we as a community appreciate you taking the time to make sure the schools are safe for students to return on Monday. I'm writing today to share my personal story with law enforcement, more specifically, my high school resource officer. Without going into detail of the event, I will just say that one day my friends and I ended up in quite a bit of trouble at school. The event required quite a bit of investigation on the school's part, and the resource officer was called in to help. We were each interviewed by multiple school employees and the resource officer. It was terrifying. Of the 5 to 6 people that I talked to that day, only one of them showed any type of compassion, and that was the resource officer. I felt safe with him to talk about the event. All of the other adults only cared about the paperwork and finishing their job. The officer, of course, had to get the details of what happened, but he also asked questions that showed he cared. I will never forget his body language and facial expressions. I honestly felt like I was his own child with the compassion he showed me at one of the worst moments of my life. He wasn't focused on the mistakes that had been made. He spent a great deal of time talking about what caused the mistakes, how can I move on, and how can I make sure it doesn't happen again. He talked about my future and what I wanted to do after high school. In that short time, I was able to open up to him about personal struggles. The majority of the conversation that day was not about the trouble I was in. My friends and I still had to deal with the consequences of our actions. We were sent to different schools in the district we were in. Even being at a new school, the same resource officer still checked up on me regularly. I can't say I was perfect from that point on, but I was very lucky to have that officer looking out for me. Knowing there was someone there for me was invaluable during some of the very difficult years. His compassion still remains unmatched by anyone I have ever met. Please vote to put the LASD officers back on campuses. Students and staff need them. From Gwen Anderson. This is my son's education funds. He's missed his first year of high school because of COVID. Reinvent in students, not sheriffs or blue lives. Please give our children a try. Proud parent at Little Rock High School. The next comment was submitted by Cassandra Douglas, Janie Hine, and 5 others submitted as cancel the contract. Wrote in, cancel the contract. From Sean Johnson. Dear AVUHSD School Board, as a parent of 3 children that have attended high school in this district, and as a current teacher and coach of over 2 decades, I am shocked that this has even become an issue. Just 3 years ago, I spent hours locked in a classroom with students, some mine and some strangers that I brought in during the alarm, while we waited with some anxiety for news we were safe. Then the next years, we spent hours discussing the openness of our campuses and safety procedures, only to have a radical group hijack this topic for some ill-conceived power struggle and crazy agenda against law enforcement. Without deputies, but returning during COVID, we are being advised to leave classroom doors open now. This is like a dumbed down version of punked. There's no way to logically justify this board believes in campus safety when we are rejecting a law enforcement presence. Some have argued that they have seen events where law enforcement embarrassed students previously or acted in bad faith. Why is there no previous evidence of this on the record? Is it because it didn't occur and now something the new offended generation has concocted in bad faith? For those that were embarrassed by law enforcement, all I can say is when people make poor choices, they should be embarrassed. For those that question the presence of law enforcement, it makes them nervous. I would say high school campuses are places where we should prepare young people to join society. We are failing to prepare them if we hide law enforcement from them. As long as there are bad people in society, we will have law enforcement in society. We must have students familiar with the presence of officers if we are to prepare them for society. Also, if the presence of people that make me uncomfortable is a deal breaker, then all of these social justice radicals that want my children less safe on campus make me uncomfortable. Will the board consider removing the radicals from the campus first? The feeling argument just doesn't hold water, and at some point, will someone that actually cares about the future of our students step forward and hold the line? Thank you for all you do for students of this district, and thank you for supporting common sense ideas for staff and students. From John Walter Mossy Hanton. Please vote no on renewing the contract with the Sheriff's Department. The Sheriff's Department often harasses and intimidates our youth. Please cancel the contract. Invest the $1.6 million in counselors, nurses, and youth programs. Please do the right thing. Thank you. From Angela Butter. I don't want for my daughter to be endangered and would like to have a police officer in her high school. Your high school coach. An investment in knowledge pays the best dividends. Invest in extracurricular such as sports, football, basketball, baseball, volleyball, and band. We need help mentoring youth. Hire psychologists and nurses and counselors, not police. From Lynn Gardner. Definitely keep police on campus. My grandchildren go to schools here, and when there are problems at other campuses, I know my grandchildren are safe because they have a police on our campus. We need to have the safety of our children foremost in mind. From Rihanna Perez. As a parent and educator, it is imperative, especially during these challenging times, that our students are safe. SROs on school campuses can provide a deterrent for possible crimes on campus. They are trained to work with adolescents and to be able to provide support to the school community during a safety crisis. Those who see this as a negative are not realizing what occurs on a daily basis on high school campuses. With the reopening of schools and the aftermath of the COVID pandemic, mental health needs are high, and SROs can be a vital part of working with staff and students to provide safety and resources for students. Our community needs to be safe, and our students and staff deserve to not have to worry about their physical safety along with their health safety during these challenging times. From a future Lancaster High School graduate. Cancel the contract, help the students, imagine our futures. From Jimmy D. I was a student and had nothing but good interactions with law enforcement. They actually helped me out a couple of times. One time a friend and I were horseplaying around. School security saw us and thought we were fighting, which it didn't even look like we were. Security grabbed us and threw us to the ground, then handcuffed us and dragged us off to the security office. Even though we both said we were horseplaying around and we were good friends, they still treated us like criminals. They called the school resource deputy who came in, listened to both of us for about 30 seconds, then told the school security to quit treating us like prisoners and take off the handcuffs. He was extremely sympathetic, and you could see he was extremely embarrassed about how school security acted. A couple of days later, school security pushed it further and had us both suspended and said they were taking the case to law enforcement for criminal charges of assault and battery. School deputy called my parents and laughed and said there would be no charges filed because we were just horseplaying around. Long story short, school resource deputy was great and saved me from getting messed over by the school for horseplaying with a friend. From Dwayne Jackson. I remember a time when police and the media were portrayed as heroes, and my favorite toy was always a hero painted in black and white. When I was young, I watched my mother get physically beaten by her boyfriend at the time. When the police showed up, she denied anything happened, even though the abuse was written on her face and body. The officers knew something had to be done for my safety, and after regular checks, I was removed from my mother at 11 and sent to a foster home. At 14, my grandmother was given custody and me a safe environment. She reinforced the respect we have for officers, and while in high school, a new town, a new place, my only friend was the school officer. I had been bounced around so much that I refused to connect with anyone, but my friend, Officer Jimenez, encouraged me to achieve. He enjoyed his job, and when I scored well on a test or excelled, aside from my grandmother, he was the most excited about my continued success. I wouldn't be where I am now without the lessons of these two people have given me. I've been pulled over for the color of my skin and because I have a lead foot. I respond respectfully, accept my guilt when due, but I have taken a few citations to court and won. The most important thing any person can do is to teach respect. If it wasn't for the respect shown to me by law enforcement at an early age, today I would most likely be another statistic. From Rachel Phelan. I'm commenting in regards to the decision to remove police officers from high school campuses. I think this is a very poor decision, should it be approved. Have we forgotten just 3 years ago there was a shooting at Highland High School? What benefit is there from removing a trained person to keep our students safe from a potential school shooter? In the world we live in today, our students need extra security while at school. Our police officers are dedicated to protecting our campuses. I would feel so much safer sending my kids to high school knowing there are trained police officers on campus. From Toby Raleigh. I have a small story. I grew up in a very abusive household and I ended up trying to numb my emotional pain with whatever pills I found around my house. I took a handful of pills to school and indulged while in class and ended up overdosing. I'm not sure what happened as I was unconscious, but I woke up in the emergency room with our school police officer. His name is Officer Martin. He is a Black police officer and I will never forget him. He did not judge me. He was not rude or mean to me. He was there genuinely concerned for my safety. He also made sure that what happened wasn't an attempt on my life and talked to me. That incident has stuck with me as it was the first encounter I had in my life with law enforcement, and the respect I was shown probably helped shape my view on law enforcement. From Shalyn David. I'm a teacher in the Antelope Valley, public servant for the city of Palmdale, and foster parent. Diverting millions of dollars to policing students is not in their best interest. We need to divert these funds instead to appropriate and research-backed resources that help our most vulnerable students access the help they need. Vote no on the contract. From Heidi Azdayana. We need more deputies in school like Deputy Carolyn Gudger. If you don't know who she is, you should look her up because people want to remove officers from our campuses. When an armed man entered the school where Officer Gudger worked as a resource officer, she engaged him and stood toe-to-toe to protect her students. Mind you, she's a Black woman and wasn't even wearing her bulletproof vest. The suspect was eventually shot and killed, but you never heard about it on the media. Now in the Antelope Valley, you have school board members like Victoria Ruffin wanting to remove these protections from our babies. I say absolutely not. From Ruth Simons. I am writing in support of keeping a deputy on our campuses in the AVUHSD. This isn't something that I necessarily like having, but feel it's a necessary evil in this day and age. I've been a teacher for 24 years on 3 different campuses. I have witnessed incidents where a deputy on campus was helpful. This has definitely escalated in the past few years. Having a deputy gives the campuses direct access when there is something going on in the neighborhood and we need to lock down. This has also been true when we've needed to lock down due to suspected guns on campus. Having a deputy, sadly, is also helpful when fights have occurred on campus. I used to be one of those teachers that would march into the middle of a fight and try to break it up. We have been advised not to do this as teachers. Of course, this goes against our instincts, but is for the best since we can now be sued for touching a student while breaking up a fight. I have witnessed fights where students were completely out of control and needed multiple people to break it up. Again, having a deputy on campus was beneficial in dealing with these situations. Lastly, I was in a situation a couple of years ago when a student in my class got upset with me. He came at me during class and backed me into a corner. I was able to de-escalate the situation, but for a while was expecting him to harm me. At this time, it was personal. If something were to have happened to me, I was glad we had a deputy on campus. We have over 200 staff and 3,000 students. I can go weeks without seeing the deputy. I know students that can go weeks as well. The deputy provides an extra measure of protection in this day and age. As an employee, I feel I deserve to feel safe while doing my job. Thank you, Ruth Simons. From Rebecca Albaran. I do not support a contract for bringing a resource officer back to school. From Alex Garcia. I saw a Facebook post recently that said your voice matters and was soliciting stories from persons who have had negative experiences with law enforcement on campuses. It invited them to private message those experiences to Christian Green, who undoubtedly is collecting them to mount an effort to remove sheriffs from our campuses. This led me to think, does he really think my voice matters? If so, why is he only looking for the negative experiences? Shouldn't he want to hear all the experiences, good or bad, if he really feels as though my voice matters? I'm glad that this board is made up of members who are all interested in all the voices of this community, not just those who have a story to tell that fits a particular narrative. I can't send my story to Christian Green because it is one of how I feel the campus deputy saved my life. I'm a senior on an AVUHSD campus, or at least I used to be on campus before this COVID world we live in. 2 years ago, when I was a sophomore, I was singled out by a group on campus because I would not let another student cheat off my paper in homeroom. That student made a point of harassing me daily, and over time had more and more friends join in. I tried to ignore it. I tried to avoid this group of students, but it just wasn't enough. That evolved into, are you too good to talk to us? Or you really think we are going to forget? Eventually, I had enough and reported this group to a vice principal, who in turn called them in to talk for a talk on bullying. I hoped this would solve it, but unfortunately it did not. The next time I saw the student in class, I was told I better watch out after school. There's a surprise for me. Sure enough, as I exited school that day, this student with a group of adults came after me as I was leaving campus. I ran to the only thing I could think of in my scared state of mind, the sheriff's car parked on campus. The sheriff wasn't at the car, but was close enough to be a deterrent to whatever they had planned for me that day. I stayed there in tears until everyone left. Eventually, the sheriff did come back to his car, and when he found me in tears, he caringly asked what was going on and made sure I was able to get home safely that day. There is absolutely no doubt in my mind that I would have been severely beaten that day without the presence of law enforcement. There's no doubt in my mind that without him calling in these students to discuss things, it would have not gotten better. I tried administrators and they did what they could, but it's not the same as a sheriff. Please know that for every student who says they are afraid to have sheriffs on campus, there are 10 others like myself who are afraid not to have them on campus. Unfortunately, very few are interested in hearing our voices. They don't fit the right narrative of the day. Thank you for your time. From Michelle Watt. I'm a lifetime resident of the Antelope Valley. I'm a product of our local school districts from Quartz Hill Elementary to Antelope Valley College. I have lived in this community my entire life and am aware of the many issues our schools face. I am commenting today to say that the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department has no place in our schools. The issues in our schools are the result of systemic racism and lack of institutional support. We need funding to help manage the roots of behavioral issues students have. Issues that include lack of educational opportunity, counselors, jobs, poverty, and food insecurities in the homes. Not police who escalate as opposed to mediate, who target students of color with excessive force and violence. The reactionary policy of sheriffs creates a pipeline for our students, predominantly Black and Latino students, from school to prison. The funding should go to creating solutions that are not just punitive. We know that sheriffs in schools are not the solution. We just need to be creative and find better ways to manage behavioral problems. We know better, we need to do better. From Ruth Lubianos. I wish to speak in opposition to the $150,000 funding of school resource deputies in the Antelope Valley Public Schools. From Doretta N. Thompson. With the implementation of trainings in social emotional trauma, implicit and explicit bias, and utilization of evidence-based practices within school districts to assist with understanding data, statistics, and the importance of identifying disproportionality and disparities, particularly towards Black and Brown students, practicing inclusion when making decisions, etc. Why would you even consider focusing your attention on renewing your contract with the sheriffs? Especially with only 3 months remaining in the school year. $150,000 is not worth it. We need tutors, ELD, and math programs, not law enforcement. The focus should be on assisting students and their families with making healthy transitions back to school, particularly considering we are still dealing with COVID-19 matters. Proper resources towards assisting with transitions back to school is far more appropriate than viewing our students as criminals. I implore you to stop the school to prison pipeline, cancel the contract now. From Sean Brown. I'm a student from Lancaster High School. I heard about this special board meeting from a friend who was too afraid to submit a comment of his own. I would just like to say that I really hope the sheriffs are kept on campus. Many adults don't know what it's like to go to high school in 2021. It's terrifying, not just because of school shootings, which are in themselves scary, but because of the daily threats of violence that exist. The world has largely removed consequences from actions, and the result is that some students behave in ways that show no restraint whatsoever. My scared friend was beaten up one day only to see the student who did it return 3 days later. Why? Doesn't our safety matter as much as those who are scared about seeing an officer on campus? These officers are there to protect students, and I feel that protection. I can feel safe going to school knowing that there is a trained sheriff there to protect us from whatever may arise. Please keep deputies on our campuses. From Emily Abramson. Keep police on campus. As a recent graduate from Quartz Hill High School campus, 2018, I know that I would have been terrified if I had not had police on campus while I was at school. Several times I saw violent fights between students broken up and several students from being assaulted due to on-campus officers protecting students. During active shooter drills, we were always scared, but a reassurance we received was that our police would apprehend the shooter and protect us. We would see the officers around campus and they would always say hello and be friendly with us when we were friendly with them. Please keep police on campus to keep us safe. From Dr. Will Laird. As a longtime employee of the Antelope Valley Union High School District, I have spent 8 years in the classroom on a comprehensive campus, as well as the last 14 serving as a site administrator at all levels and on several campuses throughout the district. In those many roles, I have seen firsthand the positive impact that a school deputy can and has had on a campus in several different ways. Beyond the obvious benefits of providing safety and security for all students and staff by their mere presence, I have witnessed many other positive benefits as well. On any given day, there are many things that happen on a campus that can potentially lead to danger or even the threat of personal harm. A school resource officer is just that, a valuable resource. They have been instrumental in assisting us in countless investigations that have resulted in proactively eliminating a threat or in stopping things before they even happened. The fact that individual staff members and students have rarely heard about or even known that there was a possible threat is a testament to their effectiveness and professionalism. In the world we live in today, schools are more of a potential target than ever before for people wanting to inflict the maximum psychological and physical harm. The ability of a school leadership team to quickly complete a thorough threat assessment in regards to the many verbal and physical threats we deal with on a regular basis is essential to maintaining a positive school culture and safe campus climate. We would not be able to do that without the training and resources of our school deputies being readily available to us. Students and staff are able to feel safe in their learning environment due in large part to our partnership, cooperation, and collaboration with our school resource officers. In addition to their support in investigations and threat assessments and in supporting us to providing a comprehensively safe school environment, I want to make sure to point out another key element that I have witnessed over the years. They care. They care about the safety of our students and staff, and they care about the people themselves. They are able to build positive relationships with students by being a daily presence on campus. Because they are part of our school community, they provide an opportunity for students to see them in a context way beyond what they see in social media or on TV. If we want to improve the relationship between law enforcement and our local community, the worst thing we can do is remove them from the very places where they can most effectively build those positive long-term relationships that we want to see. On many occasions, I have been able to see the positive impact that their mentoring and relationship building has had on our campuses, and I would hope that we can find a way to continue the good work we have started together. From Christopher Abramson. Wow, I truly cannot believe you are considering removing police from schools. How can you even consider a measure that makes our kids less safe? Without a police presence, we are just asking for more incidents of shooting and other violence. Do not trade the safety of our children to appease a misguided notion. From Nathan Abramson. I would like to make my voice heard concerning police officers in schools. I'm a recent graduate of the public school system and have only had excellent interactions with all of the police officers on campus. They provide good mentorship and advice outside of the normal realm of teachers and academic advisors, and I have only seen positive relationships as a result. One time when their intervention was required to break up a scuffle, they took extra time ensuring that each party had a chance to voice their concerns, discuss the issues, and find solutions, even before school administration got involved. They are professional and a good role model for students, and I feel they are critical to keep us safe, not only from each other as students, but especially from outside sources in a world where public shootings are frighteningly common and increasingly so. From Rachel Woodward. Please keep police in schools. In my own recent high school experience, I relied on our campus police officer to keep us safe many times. It's not just about breaking up fights, it's about making sure that there's never an inappropriate presence on campus. Teen years are hard as it is without having to worry about physical safety. From Mr. Garcia. I'm a teacher in this district of many years. I have literally been spat upon by students who are not even my own for asking them to pick up the trash that they threw right next to the garbage can. I have been struck while trying to break up fights. I have stood in the middle of the end of a year riot while trying to keep adults off our campuses and away from our kids. How on earth can we say we are trying to increase student safety by removing sheriffs from our campuses? Ask any teacher who has been around for a decade plus if they think violence on campuses has increased or decreased over that time. Those of us in the trenches know that it has only gone up and we need help managing it. Adding mental health workers, community service workers, more counselors, these all sound great, but they are not at the expense of the law enforcement officers who we know will be there to protect all of us when the unimaginable emergencies erupt. Please keep our protector with us. We cannot do this work alone. From Dr. Chris Grado. Good afternoon, distinguished members of the AVUHSD Board and Cabinet. My name is Chris Grado, Principal of Highland High School. I would like to thank you for holding this special meeting to consider the safety of our students and staff. By voting to approve a contract with the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, you are telling our community that you believe the safety of the district is at the forefront of your work. You are no doubt familiar with the incident on the campus of Highland High School in May of 2018. I wholeheartedly believe that it would have been much worse if for not the swift action taken by Los Angeles County deputies who bravely stormed our campus and protected the lives of students and staff. They were on our campus in minutes. I believe response time is key in such dire situations, and having a deputy on our campuses gives us a direct line to his or her colleagues who respond immediately to provide backup. If there is any concern over how SRO deputies conduct themselves on campus, I must say that in my 20 years as an educator with the AVUHSD, I have never personally witnessed a campus SRO mistreat or inappropriately interact with students or staff. They represent themselves in a professional manner fitting of someone sworn to protect and serve. I completely understand the concerns and mistrust some may have of law enforcement. However, not having SROs on our campuses removes crucial opportunities for students and law enforcement to build positive relationships that will influence the future interactions beyond the walls of our schools. These relationships also forge opportunities that can possibly prevent campus violence by mitigating student-to-student issues, addressing mental health concerns, and by ultimately performing threat assessments. Following the events that took place on my campus, we had multiple public forums to hear the concerns of students and parents. Those in attendance overwhelmingly agreed that they would actually like to have more officers on campus. Also, I have recently asked students how they feel about having deputies on campus, and the majority have responded that it helps make them feel safe. My job as an educator is to do just that, educate our students. My expertise is in facilitating opportunities for students that help them realize their potential for steps beyond high school. I get to focus on education because the ever important aspect of my job, keeping students and staff safe, is accomplished in partnership with my SRO and security staff. I respect and value the expertise of the Sheriff's Department in protecting and keeping our campus safe and de-escalating potential situations that can compromise campus safety. Students cannot learn if they do not feel safe. Thank you for continuing to show your district that you respect and value your students and employees by voting yes on this contract. Respectfully, Dr. Chris Grado, Principal, Highland High School. From Vivian. Will the real Slim Shady please stand up? Hello, it's me, Vivian, the real one. I feel the need to share with the board and Dr. Ruffin how I feel about the LASD contract. Today, I ask the school board to please unanimously vote in support of the contract with the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department. We need extra help to keep the children safe. The school police not only keep them safe, but they also make the kids feel safer while at school. The police are also excellent role models for the children. A large number of children do not have a good adult role models in their lives, especially at home. It is important that they have many good role models when they are at school. So I ask the board again to unanimously vote in support of the police contract. I hope everyone has a blessed day and that the children and staff are safe as they return to school next week. From Jeremy Smith. As a parent of multiple students in this district, I want to lend my thoughts on this important issue up for consideration today. I have heard the arguments for defunding the police and removing sheriffs from our campuses, but I hear very little about the impact it will have on those students who see the deputies as protectors. My babies want the sheriffs on campus. They need to feel that layer of safety being provided to them. Regular violence among students, shooters in the media on a regular basis, and the ever-present drugs and weapons that find their way onto campuses will not disappear by removing deputies. If anything, those things will only increase as students know they will not face real consequences for those things. What discourages students from breaking a rule if there is no real consequence for doing it? I pray you will keep the protections in place for our students and that you will remember the kids who rely on knowing that there is help ever present for whenever it may be needed. From Naomi Toledo, I am voting no on renewing the contract with the LA Sheriff's Department. From Shanti Jackson, I'm going to be real in responding to this issue. I was in the AV district for like a month before moving to LA, where I then got expelled. I went through some stuff when I was in high school, and I only got in trouble for about 10% of the things I should have. I have learned a lot in the years since then, and I just want to say that while I was afraid of the sheriffs when I was in high school, it was probably the only fear that kept me from doing even more really dumb crap. I have relatives in the district now, and they are working hard to get the sheriffs removed from schools. I really hope you don't, because it will embolden them to try and get away with even more. When they hit the real world, there will be no mercy. Campus sheriffs do a much better job of trying to help a kid than a cop at the mall does. Learn the respect now. That's all I'm going to say about this. From Willie Hutchins. Hello. As a Black man in this community, I feel it is important to speak up on the topic of police in schools. There has been a lot of discussion on this topic and how it relates to race. The truth is it doesn't. If you look at the real data, not the data people skew to fit their agendas, you will see that there is no relation that would validate removing police from schools. It is really simple. If you're not doing something wrong, you don't need to be afraid. If you know you are breaking the law, you should get nervous when you see the police. Most students are not breaking the law. The school police will not make them uncomfortable. We need to make sure we are protecting students. It's insane this is even an option since one school has had a school shooting. Please vote no. Please vote to protect the students. Thank you. From Hal Steinberg. As an Antelope Valley resident, I am deeply concerned by this meeting. School starts on Monday for hundreds of students, and instead of focusing on their needs, this board is recklessly holding a sudden meeting to sign a new agreement with a law enforcement agency that routinely harms those very students and community members. $150,000 could be invested in mental health needs exacerbated by this pandemic. It could be spent on the still needed repairs and upgrades to school infrastructure. It could be spent on a culture of care and community building, values schools supposedly teach students. What values are being taught when this board announces a special meeting one day in advance without community input? A number of months ago, the district created a committee to review police presence on campus. That committee has not returned a report yet. In fact, the committee members were not even notified or consulted in advance of this meeting. The level of disrespect shown to the committee is astounding and points to a board that cares nothing for the democratic process. Some of you on this board are former teachers. The best educators collaborate with students, parents, and coworkers and listen to all the voices. Some of you have forgotten that lesson. I urge you to vote no on this proposal and start reflecting on how you can help end the school to prison pipeline. From Beth Cayetano. As a teacher, I believe that as students return on Monday, we must prioritize our students first and foremost. I urge you to think about the needs of our students. We do not need the presence of law enforcement on campuses. What we do need is mental health services, extra resources for students who have had a harder time during the pandemic, and campuses that feel welcoming and loving for our students. Students need to feel safe in their learning environments, and the presence of law enforcement is not necessary. The district created a committee to have different stakeholders voice their opinions and concerns on this matter, but have decided to continue with their plans without recommendations from this committee and without considering the data. I urge you to listen to the community, especially the communities that are most affected by law enforcement. We have seen in other parts of the country and even in our own area, schools canceling their contracts with law enforcement. AVUHSD, make the right choice, cancel the contract now. From Zach Mercier. I am writing in support of the men and women who protect and serve our school communities in their role as school resource officers. Over the past few months, our SROs have been unjustly and irresponsibly put to blame for the poor decisions and actions of some of our students. These comments are made by people who have no idea what roles SROs play on a campus, or by some choosing to risk our students' safety in continuing effort to attack all law enforcement, as opposed to looking to improve law enforcement. In actuality, our SROs provide a pivotal service to our communities in both areas of community relations and school safety. School deputies are able to provide instant service when the need arises. Our school deputies are not just sanctioned at a school, they are part of our entire school community and become a contact point for the school safety 24 hours a day. Routinely, our school deputies provide instant protection, communication, and action in a way we would never be able to have access to. From incidents happening in the neighborhoods that require lockdowns to students needing medical assistance on campus, our deputies are there on a moment's notice. The misnomer and untruthful picture painted of school deputies harassing or just arresting students could not be more inaccurate. SROs intervene on any threat that may occur and act as a crime or violence deterrent. They gather a large amount of intelligence from kids who have no problem telling the SRO if something is up, whether it's about drugs or fighting or violence of any kind. They can do this because of their desire and ability to build positive relationships with our students. SROs can also see if something appears suspicious and keep an eye out for developments. This open communication creates a safe, non-threatening school environment. If the SROs were not there, students would most likely have never called the police on his or her own. The many examples of the positive contributions that our SROs provide would take up to more time than we are allowed, and the list of incidents that are prevented would educate all, even those who work in schools but are limited to their own four walls. As a site principal, I cannot imagine leading a site where safety is of utmost importance without our school resource officer. I could not imagine who I'd call at 2 a.m. when we need a student wellness check immediately. I could not imagine managing a school lockdown when there is an incident in the neighborhood that is putting our children at risk. Eliminating school resource officers is a vote for eliminating instant school and student protection. SROs are not meant to be an armed security presence, scaring kids into behaving, but rather educators, informal counselors, and law enforcement officers who are part of the schools in which they serve. At each school, the SRO becomes a dependable, appreciated member of the administration who kids look up to for advice, support, and safety. As a principal and parent of 2 students at Courts Hill High School, I support the continuation of our school resource officers as they continue to serve and protect our community. Thank you, Deputy Fram, Deputy Bissell, Deputy Chapman, Deputy Lopez, Deputy Griffith, Deputy Taylor, and Deputy Ruiz for your service to our school, our community, and for your commitment to our students. From Maggie Maroney, I demand a no vote on contract renewal with LA Sheriff's Department. Antelope Valley students do not need more cops in their schools. What they need is counselors, nurses, and youth programs. This is just common sense. Don't waste $1.6 billion of our taxpayer money. Care, not cops. From Cynthia Sawyer. I am a teacher at Knight High School. As a victim of a potentially deadly crime on campus, I am thankful that there was a deputy on campus with both the training needed and experience that a professional on law enforcement brings. The thought of not having an armed deputy on campus is absurd to me. They are there to protect students and staff alike. In my 16 years with the districts, we have had riots, guns on campus, knives on campus, fights break out, physical attacks on teachers and staff by students, physical attacks on staff by parents, kids who've tried to commit suicide on campus, kids who are high on drugs and out of their minds, staff with inappropriate and illegal behavior, etc. Having a sheriff on campus to help in all of these situations brings a huge amount of comfort and peace of mind to those of us working there and for the students that are there to learn and not be distracted by such events. Our security staff does a great job at what they do, but they are far from the level that a professional law enforcement is at. Like I said earlier, the idea of removing this level of safety, security, and peace of mind is ridiculous in my opinion. From Clayton, keep police on campus. From Karen Stein, I'm curious as to why you are using funds for this. You haven't listened to your chosen committee per the AV press today. The national issues states that police aren't the issues. I believe we can educate here in Quartz Hills without law enforcement. Let's see how it works. Let's imagine our children in a healthy environment. They aren't convicts. From Juan Macias. When I was a freshman in high school, I saw another student with drugs on campus. I wasn't sure what to do about this, and I was afraid if I said something, I would be labeled a snitch and get beaten up or something. Instead, I wrote a note and I put it under the wiper blade of the cop car. The next day in school, I heard the kid was searched, and then he didn't come to school for like a week. Rumor was they found drugs on him. Cops give us a place where we can go when we need to report things or resolve things that help us to be safer on our campuses. The world is a screwed up place, and the last thing we need right now as kids is more things to give us anxiety, like taking away the closest responders we have for our problems on campus. Please leave the sheriffs on our campuses. From Anne McKinnon, I wish to speak against contracting with the sheriffs. We're in the midst of a pandemic. Surely if the board has $150,000 to spend, it would be better spent on healthcare workers to support our students and our staff. One of the gifts that closing the schools has given us is the ability to make new and different choices as the schools reopen. This should be one of them. From Shelley Monroe. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. This is simple. As a parent, I want my kids to be safe. Remove the deputies from schools. The next day, I disenroll my student and put them in another school with deputies or do homeschool. I want my kids safe, and the popular politics of the day will not take that from me. I hope you do what's right, not what's currently popular. Renew our LASD contract and keep our kids safe. From Angela Walker. Studies examine how and why a U.S. city that is known nationally for its political progressivism continuously reaffirm its decision to maintain and expand the School Resource Officer SRO program in its high schools. By examining local discourses within a racial capitalism framework, we show that the elements of racial neoliberalism reemerge within a neoliberal therapeutic discourse that dominated decision-making processes and countered challenges to SROs in schools. This discourse argued that individual officers benefited low-income students of color by providing care and challenging school racism, despite research evidence and a counter discourse which argued that SROs enacted harm and racism against low-income students of color, especially Black students, and should be removed from schools. SROs came to be an easy fix to racial neoliberalism in the school district and city, and contributed to the continuation and extension of the school to prison nexus. We want change, no police, no law enforcement, no sheriff, #cancel the contract. From Nikki Abramson, please keep police in school on campus. 2 of my daughters recently graduated from Quartz Hill High School. During their time there were a few incidents on other campuses and the school was locked down. I had so much peace of mind knowing there was a police officer on campus protecting my children. I'm grateful for the part of the community police officer plays on campus, and I know that his or her presence is a deterrent to school crime, physical bullying, and other problems. Please keep our children safe by keeping police officers on campus. From John Zamora. Having our sheriffs on campus is not a convenience or a luxury, but a needed layer of protection in today's world. Please don't gamble with our student safety by trying out a new plan without having law enforcement available. Even if this were to happen someday, it should never ever even be considered without a strong plan for how their role is going to be replaced. There are ideas floating around on it, but there is no plan in place. Until that happens, please bring our sheriffs and show that you care more about our kids than how you look. From Steve Lockhart. I am writing in support of keeping the deputies' presence on the AVUHSD campuses. Just as there are studies showing the presence of a school resource officer may be detrimental, research also shows positive impacts these officers have on the school climate as well. According to the Forum of Public Policy, if students and educators are to achieve their full potential, schools must be safe and feel safe. Students who report feeling safe in schools are more engaged in class, have higher academic achievement, have lower rates of absenteeism, truancy, and behavioral issues. Educators also benefit from safe schools. Those educators who report feeling safe in schools are better able to focus on academics, are more likely to remain in their positions, and are better equipped to teach and support students. Simply put, feeling safe in schools is connected to achieving educational outcomes for students. As a 34-year employee of the AVUHSD, I have witnessed mostly positive interactions between our school deputies and our students and staff. The deputies have been engaging with students, and from my experience, have only been needed when absolutely necessary. I have seen recent incidents of students being completely out of control while at school. The on-campus security officers has not been able to calm these students, and it was only the presence of a school deputy that was able to calm and resolve these highly volatile incidents. In the past few years, I know of incidents in which students have spat on and punched our school security personnel. The lack of respect towards school personnel has increased in the recent years, and unfortunately, a law enforcement presence has become a necessity. Sad as it is, these incidents happen in the now, and the deputies can deal with some of these incidents in real time, whereas our on-campus personnel are not properly equipped to deal with some of the more extreme incidents, rare as they may be. We're in the business of education, and this is an opportunity to teach our students the traits and attributes necessary to be responsible, law-abiding, productive citizens. Integrating the SROs into the campus community can be an essential in these lessons. Steve Lockhart, Palmdale High School. From Carter Cynthia. The money spent on the sheriffs in the school is wasted money. It is time we use your resources better. More positive outcomes will result with sheriffs out of schools. It should not be an armed camp, but a learning environment. The money is better spent on counseling, intervention, education. The sheriff is an emergency, is on standby minutes away. Reimagine how school money should be spent. Cancel this unnecessary contract. From Unheard Patents. We don't want police at the school. I know this board has a ton of trouble. Stop taking it out on the children. Let's create pleasant memories for our youth. In my community, police aren't positive influence. And no matter how you chop it, dice it, they begin the pipeline to prison, and you are choosing this for our Black, brown, and poor youth. Sheriffs are intimidating factors and add to systemic racism. Remove this from my daughter's education experience. It's our tax money. We are the taxpayers and we are voters. Come election time, I will be sharing this with my church, sorority, and youth organizations. From Lee Sin. At the ending of the school year in 2019, there was a picture circulating on social media of one of our local high school students making threats and posting a picture of bullets, etc. Many parents kept their kids home the next day. While those parents may not be writing in tonight, do you not think those parents who spoke with their actions instead are not in favor of having law enforcement on our campuses to protect their kids? Our crowd is less vocal because many do not even know that the discussion that is happening today is happening. If If you are going to remove a layer of safety that us parents depend on, then at a minimum, there should be a district-wide poll to the parents about how we feel about it. I don't care what the loud community activists have to say. Their reason for screaming the loudest are not rooted in the genuine care for my child. Ask the parents, ask the kids, and ask the staff who wants the deputies on campus. Those are the only groups who should have any vote in this matter. This parent and every parent I know wants them to stay. From Ashley. Our community demands a no vote on using $150,000 of taxpayer money to renew the LASD contract with AVUHSD. Reinvest in student success rather than the school to prison pipeline. From Arthur Calloway. In regards to the agenda item subject, Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department School Resource Deputy Program, PS #2021-4. As a voting member of the district, I do not want this to pass. The community spoke very loudly from last summer and continues to speak out against the presence of sheriffs on the school campus. From Proud Black Parent. Attention AV Board and Superintendent. I'm requesting removing police from AV schools. It has been a key demand of the Black Lives Matter movement for years. There's just too much research that shows that they are not making our kids safe. Data shows that schools with cops are more likely to refer children to law enforcement, including for non-serious violent behaviors. In 43 states and the District of Columbia, Black students are more likely to be arrested than other students while at school, according to an analysis by Education Week Research Center. What message are you sending out to Black and Brown students? Better yet, the parents. We are asking now to cancel the contract. This comment was submitted by Audrey as well as 3 others as concerned citizens. Please vote no and invest the $1.6 million into counselors, youth programs, and nurses instead. From Chris Bellingham. As a former student of AVUHSD and combat medic, I can say that during my time in high school, the police were unfair in the treatment. They would treat us students with the utmost contempt and interrupt our classes for unfair searches without parental permission. If the school wants to help students become citizens, this must stop the school to prison pipeline. Instead, use funds for canceling the contracts to hire more staff for students. From Pavitra Menon, no. From Kyle Pressfield, I've lived in the Antelope Valley for over 30 years. I have attended school here, worked here, and been an active community member all of that time. There are many things I think have improved. There are many things I think have not. School safety, unfortunately, is in the not category. I don't blame the school district for this, nor the teacher, nor the administrators. I don't blame the kids either. It's a very difficult problem rooted in the breaking down of the family unit, removal of consequences, increasing poverty, and increasing population, among a host of other factors. There's no doubt much work to be done. All of that being said, this vote tonight will leave the room for blame. Will we help or hurt that state of our schools tonight? Will we be making them safer or scarier? I know there's a segment of our community that fears police, and unfortunately, there are some valid reasons for that. There, however, is also a large part of this community that still views police as what they are intended to be, protectors. We need them. Removing police from schools will not make them a safer place. It might make some students feel better, but it will make others feel worse. Is that progress, to trade one group for the other? No doubt we can make improvements, but simply shifting a problem from one group to another is not progress, it's just a different problem. We can do better than that. Let us instead channel our energy on bringing in more supports, more safety measures, not less. Keep our sheriffs, and let's add to the team at the same time with more counselors, social workers, and mental health specialists. From Laura Tweedy Ferguson. Throughout our time in the Antelope Valley Union High School District, we have witnessed the positive impact of our school deputies. All of the deputies we have worked with took pride in getting to know our students. While on our campuses, they would spend the breaks and lunches walking the sites and speaking with students, gaining their trust and confidence. They have been instrumental in working with the schools and community agencies to help our students and families in times of need. They have helped resolve many incidents before they became a problem because of the relationships that have been built with our students. By knowing the campus and the students, deputies are able to assist in threat assessments quickly and take appropriate action. In many cases, they were able to stop an incident before something could happen. These men and women work tirelessly to keep our community and our schools safe. They are tasked with putting themselves in front of danger every day, and they come to our schools and do their best to be mentors, counselors, mental health experts, teachers, therapists, and more. In all incidents, large and small, we have only witnessed the deputies shown professionalism, compassion, and a deep sense of duty to our community as a whole. Working with the deputies has allowed our schools to focus our energy on creating a safe and secure environment for all of our students, staff, and community members. Signed, principals Laura Tweedy Ferguson, Stephanie Herrera, Kristen Tepper, Eric Stanford, Zach Mercier, Chris Grado, Jose Barajas, Will Laird, Charles Dunn, and Steve Radford. From Isabel Flax, we deserve a no vote for cops in schools and to invest the 1.6 million in counselors, nurses, and youth programs. How dare you have a secret meeting discussing the matters of the community and our children? Cancel the contract. From Emily Rash, please vote no to cops in schools and stop criminalizing our youth. That $1.6 million can go to so much further if invested in counselors and youth programs. From Michael Schneider, hashtag cancel the contract AV, no vote on renewing the LASD contract. From Joshua Lohman, we need to remove police presence in our schools, period, full stop. It is incredibly clear that police inhibit the learning process. They aren't effective at keeping kids safe on campus, and the cost of keeping them there prevents other deeply needed resources from being provided. Please do not renew the contract with LASD. Any individual concerned about child safety can be met with a response that isn't connected to a police organization. Our schools need more counselors as we are still under the recommended ratio, especially now as we come out of a worldwide pandemic that has caused significant mental and emotional trauma to children across this nation. Don't let our kids come back to a situation where a desperate call for help could be responded to by a badge and a gun. From Kim Larson, as a parent of Lancaster High School students, we were shocked the board would consider removing deputies from all the campuses. In the volatile climate we are now facing, we would like to see more deputies, not less. This is the last thing you should be doing at this time. There are multiple fights a day, threats to school shootings, and blatant bullying. It is unrealistic fantasy to think these problems will go away by removing deputies. Security guards can assist deputies, but they do not have the training, tactics, and knowledge deputies have. Removing deputies sends a clear message to open season on high schools in the Antelope Valley. From Julian Ward, as a graduate of the AVUHSD, I'd like to share my experience with deputies on campus and let my voice be heard in this discussion. Early on in my high school experience, I got into some altercations with the sheriffs on my campus as I was caught stealing from the food services. Being my first encounter and hearing everything that happened to students of color, I expected to be taken away in handcuffs that day. To my surprise, that officer talked to me that day, asked questions to find out what was going on, and really tried to understand the situation. He was kind and even understanding of it while not approving of it at the same time. I did get in trouble, but I wasn't taken away in cuffs that day. This started a relationship between me and the sheriff, and I would say hi to him on campus going forward. I'm glad to say I never got into that kind of trouble again, and I was grateful for the way it worked out. I'm grateful that I was taught early how bad it could have been, and I was able to redirect my path early. My senior year, I even thought about becoming a cop. I went to the same deputy who set up a ride-along for me. That wasn't enough to convince me that this wasn't the profession for me, but I gained so much that was enough to convince me that this wasn't the profession for me, but I gained so much respect in the restraint these officers show as they are verbally abused, spit upon, and harassed day in and day out in a job that is not only thankless, but hostile in the response for many of the community. I'm thankful for our deputies and the work they do. I'm a changed person today because of the early interaction I had with a caring deputy. I really hope this body chooses to keep them on our high school campuses. From S. Jeff Smith. In my 22 years as a teacher in the AVUHSD, I've witnessed our school deputies respond to 3 incidences of guns on campus. Each time they and our security team responded professionally. I believe that 2 of the times the individual would have used violence if the deputy had not been on campus to respond and keep us safe. On the 3rd incident, I was impressed at how quickly the deputies responded and how professionally to a school shooting. Sadly, sometimes students and adults are on or come to campus to harm our students or other employees. I have witnessed the school deputy diffuse these situations with calmness and quickness. Our campuses are safer with law enforcement protecting us on campus. I have also witnessed several medical emergencies. The experience, training, and communication lines the school deputies had helped to get our students quick care. From Daniel. Racial justice is a goal we must move towards. However, removing police officers from campus could lead to other problems down the road. Don't forget that just a few years ago, we had a shooting in our very own AVA high school district. Students in schools go on lockdown several times a year because of shooting threats, and having an officer on campus is extremely helpful in a case of a real emergency. Perhaps some kind of compromise could be reached with increased racial sensitivity training for officers instead of throwing out the whole baby with the bathwater. From Jeannie Smith. I'm a parent that has had 4 students attend Highland High School. I have spent many hours on campus volunteering. I have worked with and witnessed the deputy on campus and many positive interactions with students and staff. While attending high school, my children reported countless situations involving drugs, weapons, violence, sexual harassment, medical emergencies, and unauthorized adults on campus. Our sheriff's department and deputies on campus are a valuable team member and a necessary part of schools in 2021. My children were on campus during the school shooting that took place at Highland High School. We were so impressed with our local law enforcement's reaction. The idea of not renewing the contract with LASD is giving in to social experiments that will weaken our school safety plans. It will be extremely foolish to return to campus without a school deputy. I'm trusting the board members and the administrators of our district in keeping our students safe on campus. Please renew the contract with our valuable school deputies. Thank you. From Rachel Phelan. I'm commenting in regards to the decision to terminate the contract with the police officers in the high school campuses. As a community member, I am firmly against this decision. Have we forgotten 3 years ago when we had a school shooting at Highland High School? Having a police presence on high school campuses is reassuring in more ways than one. We live in a crazy world and anything can happen. The safety of our kids needs to come first, not politics. I would feel so much better sending my kids to high school knowing there is a trained officer on campus ready to help when any kind of problem arises. From Zahara Jones. Please prioritize the safety of our kids, keep sheriffs on our campuses. It is almost unfathomable that this even has to be explained, that keepers of the peace make campuses a safer place, not the opposite. From Baron Gardner. An ACLU study asserts that districts all over the country are using their LCFF supplementary and comprehensive funds on police when these funds are earmarked for EL, foster, and low-income students. These funds have to directly and specifically benefit these students. There is no evidence that the sheriff presence fits this criteria. From Vivian, the original one. Shame on you, Brett Neal, Superintendent, Grady, Wynn. Oops, I forgot the male trustee's name, which it doesn't matter at all of you except Dr. Ruffin are going to follow suit to say yes to whatever, which is definitely no surprise in our community, and bring this item back to the board when not just the educated community and Dr. Victoria Ruffin has already voted against having sheriffs in schools, which by the way would be Lancaster sheriffs only, policing the entire AV when the contracts were over last summer. Why? This is just to promote the policing of our children of color to fill your local prison to receive revenue. It's sad. Just because you now have the majority, you take it as a joke to take care of the welfare of all the kids, especially of color. Brett, you recalled you wanted to see if you could help myself and another parent as we followed the rules to address the abusive treatment of the Highland High School varsity coach, DJ Hines, the principal, Grado, James Stockdale, and your recent employee, the famous Uncle Tom Anthony Hunt, the intimidators, enforcers, who are all a disgrace to this AV district because you nor our superintendent took a stance when these sons that were called liars, that the coach called them the N-word. Why police the kids, police some of the teachers, many, not all, that are prejudiced racists, no different than the recent Palmdale racist ranting teacher who resigned or so. This district doesn't need more corrupt officers ready to put a knee on more necks of kids of color. Let's not forget the DOJ are still here supervising both Lancaster and Palmdale Sheriff's Department. For racism, defund the police. We don't need them in schools. Use the money to help build bridges. From a community member, cancel the contract rather than funding schools with supplies programs to help students fulfill their duties as students. They would rather fund the police. It's common sense to think of students and their futures. Cancel the contract to fund the police on school campuses. From Lancaster, this is illegal without community involved. Our tax dollars are being paid to the Sheriff's Department to watch over school over the summer with only a few students, COVID-19, no extension. It would be a waste of taxpayers' money when we can help our communities better. From Jose Barajas, dear trustees, thank you for taking the time today to address this important matter. This Monday marks an important step in reconnecting as a learning community. A partnership with our local Sheriff's Department, which includes the school resource officers on campus, is vital in creating a space where students are safe to learn and to develop healthy relationships. Over the many years as a teacher and administrator in our district, I have witnessed their positive impact on our students and the overall learning culture of our school sites. They are trained professionals who support our learning community in a unique way. The service they provide is distinctive, yet conclusively in line with the learning goals of our certificated teachers and classified support staff. In our ever-present aspiration to teach the whole child, we need to partner with our local community agencies and provide our students access to these resources. I ask that the contract with our local Sheriff's Department be approved in order to provide our students and staff with the best possible learning environment. Jose Barajas, Principal, Little Rock High School. From Tyra Wallace. My name is Tyra, and I urge you to vote no on renewing the contract with LASD. In addition to fearing a worldwide pandemic, students should not have to fear being targeted by police on campus. I won't throw statistics out because if you've been listening, you should be well aware of that by now, that students that come from vulnerable demographics are targeted most by police on campus. I urge you to listen to the community and finally do what we have been asking you to do for over a year now, not just for our sake, but for the sake of your credibility. If you claim to care about the community and represent our desires, then you would recognize that there has been a shift. People are preparing to expose the evils of police on campus, specifically the horrendous numbers in the Antelope Valley in comparison with the rest of LA County. Movements are forming, reports are being made, the community is upset. You cannot ignore this any longer. This fight isn't going away. Which side of history do you want to be on? Really ask yourself that as a board member, as a representative of our community, and as a human being. Let me ask that again. Which side of history do you want to be on? From One in Support for All Student Safety. I'm writing in support of school resource officers remaining in our schools. Over the course of the last few board meetings, we have listened to some with a clear agenda against all law enforcement, not just bad law enforcement. And now that agenda is putting our student safety at risk. We have heard unfactual and race-baited phrases linking school resource officers and schools themselves to a mythical pipeline to prison. But what we have not heard is the truth. School resource officers in schools are not a pipeline to prison. Bringing or using drugs at school is a pipeline to prison. Bringing or using weapons at school is a pipeline to prison. And factually, poor attendance is a pipeline to prison. Schools are a pipeline to colleges. Schools are a pipeline to careers. Schools are a pipeline to opportunity. And schools are a pipeline to positive relationships. We have also heard outlier and stories of hyperbole as if they were the norm. Has an innocent student been searched and found to have nothing illegal? Absolutely. Has an innocent student been detained in the effort to investigate a safety issue? Absolutely. These inconveniences in response to school safety are nothing in comparison to the inability of our schools to provide this protection if officers are removed from schools. Stories of resource officers slamming students down or intimidating students of color are simply propaganda used by those with clear agendas. Any isolated circumstance of these accusations in recent history being used as evidence to remove the school resource officers from campus is so out of the norm that you can't help but wonder what the true motivation is of an individual using them. Those who are pushing this initiative to remove officers are simply using our children as pawns in their attack on law enforcement, as opposed to talking about the elephant in the room. Students do engage in criminal activity. I ask the board to take into consideration the proven poor character of those individuals who are trying to remove resource officers. I ask the board to look at Amanda Perel and Victoria Ruffin's long voting history and personal agendas and ask yourself if you can trust their motives for the removal of school officers. Lastly, I ask the board to consider the fact that Amos Wellington and James Tilton are leading the cause for the vocal minority of teachers who want the removal of law enforcement from our campuses. These two might be the most hypocritical aspect of this uneducated movement, and they certainly do not speak for the far majority of us on school campuses whose actions show our support of all students. If these two are the spokesman for one teacher, we are all in trouble. On a final note, Victoria Ruffin, is there a reason why you wished your Black and brown students well for the remainder of the year and not all students? But yes, let's blame school resource officers for racial divide. Your continued racism towards school resource officers is now up for vote today, and you should be ashamed. From the people, waiting on students to return with a sheriff to greet them is not the way to say welcome back. From Rod Penner, I wholeheartedly support and urge the AVUHSD board to do so, re-implementation of the school resource deputy program contract with LASD. The school resource deputies are an integral component in maintaining the safety and security of the students, teachers, district staff, and members of the public. I have seen firsthand the efforts and effectiveness of the school resource deputies. To not have them available significantly compromises the safety of all concerned parties. Please do the right thing and reinstate the contract. From Corey Lamar Barnes. I'm a college student and resident of the Antelope Valley. I show social interest and community feeling. I am proud to say I volunteer and serve our community. It is not necessary to have sheriff's department on our campuses. With the fact that security guards are proven, ethical, and cost-effective, I urge the board to vote no on renewing the contract with the sheriff. From Donna Penner. I support the school resource deputy program and ask the district board to do the same. This is key to maintaining the safety of our students and teachers. Please vote to place the deputies back on campus. From Jonathan Fitch. Reestablish a contract with LA County Sheriff immediately. Protect our students and teachers as we return to campus on 4/12. I do not feel comfortable working at a public high school or sending my student next year as a freshman if there is not a trained and armed deputy on the campuses. From Concerned Citizen. It is appalling that the district has chosen to bring the law enforcement contract for approval at a special meeting with only 24 hours notice to the public. Even more appalling is the fact that they are using money intended to provide extra help to our community's most vulnerable children, those in poverty, learning English, or in the foster system, to fund this contract. Is the greatest good you can do with that money to bring armed enforcers into their school environment? Where is the special board meeting to put in place an emergency contract for social workers or for mental health supports we know that these children need after a year of turmoil? Are our current campus security teams not sufficiently trained to keep peace on campuses when only half the students will be there at any time? Please take a look at the messages you are sending today with this contract. And if you decide you do need armed officers in schools, then please don't take money from kids in poverty to pay for them. From Abigail Abarnia. Cancel the contract, no more police on school campuses. From Christian Green. Greetings, Superintendent Vieira, board members, staff, and our virtual audience. My name is Christian D. Green, and I am the campaign coordinator for Cancel the Contract AV. First and foremost, I am here asking for a response from our board. I would like to thank Dr. Vieira for responding this morning, but Board President McGrady, I am still waiting for your response. I am urging you all to vote no on renewing the contract with the sheriffs. $150,000 is not worth having our students return back to what was there before, fear and intimidation. Why must we do the same as before? Why are living in the old? Why are we not trying to adapt or change? There's a national call for schools to remove the presence of law enforcement from our schools. Statistics and research both show us that the presence of law enforcement adds no value to a scholar's education. If anything, it creates fear. The pandemic has put a lot of trauma on families, parents, teachers, students, staff, administration, and as a teacher myself, to see that the schools are more invested in sheriffs than students, it is truly disheartening and embarrassing. Board members, I am praying that your minds and hearts become open to new possibilities of what community care looks like in the AV, especially for our students. Our district is comprised of over 80% Black and Brown students, but yet they feel overlooked, marginalized, and oppressed both on and off the campuses. Let these next 3 months serve as a pilot of what schools can look like without police. Give it a try, and if it doesn't work, let's try something else. We must work together. Again, I urge and plead that you vote no on the contract. Be on the right side of history in 2021. From Kenny Bryant. Good afternoon, Board President Jill McGrady and ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is Kenny Bryant, and I am the Director of School Site Safety at Lancaster High School. I want to thank you for allowing me this opportunity to speak to you regarding board agenda item PS 2021-4, which is under consideration today. As the Director of School Site Safety, I have been entrusted with the safety, care, and welfare of all students, staff, and visitors who come onto our facility on a daily basis. I have the responsibility of using any and all available resources to this end. As we consider this topic related to the contract between AVUHSD and the LASD, we understand that there are a number of considerations that could influence this decision. As a member of the AVUHSD safety leadership team, I would like to enumerate the number of valuable services that the LASD has provided to our district. Threat assessment and mitigation, trainings on topics related to student and public safety, rapid deployment of law enforcement personnel during crisis situations, emotional trauma response supports for students, information sharing regarding dangerous situations in the community which could impact the safety of the school environment. These are just a few of the reasons why all represented directors of school site safety and the AVUHSD feel that we are in need of the valuable services provided through this contract with LASD. While we understand that LASD has a responsibility to serve the community of which our school district is in part, we feel that having a segment of the Sheriff's Department that is fully dedicated to the service of our schools is an integral part of ensuring the safety of our students in compliance with California Constitution Article 1, Section 28C. Thank you for your consideration of this important matter. Kenny Bryant, Director of School Site Safety, Lancaster High School. From Margarita Galindo. Cancel the contract, no more police in schools, enough. From Ruth Sanchez. Stop the unnecessary spending, cancel the contract. We need counselors which can assist students, mental health, wellness services, career, vocational, and higher level education for our students. It is vital that we stop our schools from being manufacturing plants for prison inmates. This is unacceptable. Our kids do not deserve better. They are owed the best that we can give them, which is to help build them up emotionally, educationally, mentally, and as healthy and free citizens of our community. James Tilton. Hello, board. I'd like to ask that you imagine how you would feel if there was a squad car parked in front of your house watching your door. If you're like me, you'd assume that there was an imminent threat to the neighborhood. And if you're like me, you'd go to bed feeling thankful for those brave individuals who work to keep us safe from threats of which we are not always are. But if you woke up in the morning and the cop was still there, your feeling of gratitude might give way to feelings of confusion as you wondered, is the threat still out there? Am I safe? And if the cop was still there a day later, a week later, a month later, a year later, at what point do you realize that the cop is watching you, that he's not watching out for you, but that you are in fact the target? At what point do your feelings of gratitude and confusion give way to apprehension and fear that you are, in his mind at least, not the one to be protected, but the one to protect against? The continued presence of law enforcement on our high school campuses has had a similar effect on some of my students. We've told these students that law enforcement is here to protect them from school shootings, but those officers, even the good ones, have come to represent something else entirely. An unspoken message that, though unintentional, is unmistakably clear, especially to our students of color. It is a message that tells our students, these future world changers, that they are threats, that they are future criminals, that they are dangerous. It is a message that every educator must seek to counter on a daily basis. I ask you to join me in reconsidering that unintentional message. I ask you once again to consider that squad car parked month after month in front of your house. Would you feel safer if you could simply call him to your house during an emergency? Wouldn't you feel less intimidated, less harassed? The same thing applies to our schools. We can call law enforcement in the event of a tragedy or emergency, but we do not need their constant physical presence on campus, especially not if we value those students of color who are concerned by their presence. The last comment this evening is from Dave Bowman. After receiving notification just last night for comments to consider bringing LASD law enforcement back to high school campuses, the board has once again done so in such a manner that can only be described as a designed to again deny AV stakeholders opportunities to submit thoughtful and informed comments to give meaningful voice to this all important matter. Furthermore, by forcing our majority Black-Brown to submit comments by print only, there are questions as to whether or not such action violated aspects of the amendment to the 1953 Brown Act delineated in AB 992, which amends section 54952.2 of the Government Code ABI, the Brown Act, under definitions to read, open and accessible to the public, as members of the general public have the ability to access and participate free of charge in the social media platform and cannot be blocked from doing so. This notwithstanding is now apparent, and having considering how the board has circumvented the provisions of the 1953 Brown Act by authorizing a non-board member to appoint a separate committee of unelected persons to advise the board in the issue of law enforcement on our AV school grounds, but the AVUHSD board is now and on a consistent basis acted in such a way as to deny public inspection of its actions in this vital matter. Untrusted, biased, discriminatory, and violent law enforcement as determined by the DOJ. With that in mind, it is demanded at this time that a public poll of board members be taken to determine which members support the manner of how the public was notified of the call for comments, as well as the timing of such event, this afternoon's meeting, and that board members confirm that neither of them have conversed with any other board members on any platform of social media as stated 4/10/2021. That concludes the public comments for this evening.
Thank you so much. And I'd just like to say thank you to all of you that took the time to share your thoughts and your views with us. We appreciate that very much. Moving forward, it is recommended that the Board of Trustees approve PS number 2021-04 agreement with Los Angeles Sheriff Department School Resource Deputy Program as presented. May I have a motion?
Motion.
That was
Amanda Perrell.
welcome. Okay.
I'm sorry, I was late to the meeting. I had problems with my internet.
Okay, thank you. I all of a sudden think, I don't know who that is because I didn't think you were here. Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Rush. Okay, discussion.
Mr. McGrady, I have some things.
Okay, thank you.
I would first like to thank the community for the words today, and I'd also like to thank Ms. Ramos for reading that. I hope she took some drinks of water during that. I first started communication with this issue in July when it first appeared at the board meeting. And since that day, I've spoken to hundreds of students to get their opinions on the matter. And the majority of students I've spoken to have been in favor of a law enforcement presence. I've also served within the Sheriff's Department committee in which we discussed some discrepancies within the contract and how to better utilize these officers. In my conversations in all these capacities, there's a surrounding goal of safety. Safety is best accomplished in this district through our resource officers. Like Mr. Bryant said, these officers work as a liaison. They get faster and more efficient help to our campuses in times of need. They also help with threat assessments and safety drills. And if there was a serious issue at Little Rock High School or any of our campuses, it could take hours for an officer to arrive at the scene. This direct line that we have at our campus keep us as students out of serious danger and help us to do what we are here to do, which is learn. Our campuses are communities. We have thousands of students, staff, and parents within our walls at a time. These resource officers are a part of our community. Within Knight High School, we are blessed to have Deputy Tom keeping us safe every day. As a few students said, these officers can guide students to lead them into a conversation of career paths and other questions that are within these officers' expertise. They can prepare us for the real world. I understand that individuals feel that this is not a good use of our money, which is why I'd like to share some information. First, the money spent on our resource officers is vital to safety, which makes it a necessary expenditure for the district to create a safe environment for our community. Here's some numbers as of 2020 that we were given. We have 64 school counselors with an additional 2 counselors for our adult ed. We have 22 school psychologists, 2 intern school psychologists, 4 educational social workers, 5 mental health therapists, and an additional 36 supporting staff with over 60 sections of school site support centers. In the state of California, the ratio of students to counselors is 609 to 1. Our district's student to counselor ratio is 330 to 1. If you add other support staff, we are looking at a 215 to 1 student to support staff ratio. These numbers share that our district is doing far better than the state average in support staff, almost 3 times better than the state average. We must make a responsible decision as a board and continue to keep our students safe as we return to campus in just hours. Approving this contract for the remainder of the school year is the best option for our students, as it creates a safe and secure environment that allows these students to do what we are here to do, and that is learn. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. You make me proud. This is why we're here. Board members, anyone else have any comments or any questions? Anything you'd like to say?
Ms. McGrady,
Yes.
I do have comments. Now this is Danita Wynn. I also want to thank everyone who submitted their comments. I appreciate them and I do listen to them. I'd like to share just a quick story. When I was a brand new board member in 2002, the high school district had safety issues. Adults were coming on school campus, selling drugs, starting fights. They started fights with other adults. They started fights with students, encouraged fights. I was appalled. I was surprised. And cabinet, Dr. Vieira went to work to make this stop. Wrought iron fences went up, and a deputy was assigned to each campus, and students and staff felt safer. There's so many ways that the partnership with the deputies help keep our schools safe. There's a lot of ways that many people don't have any idea actually happen. But the obvious one, school shootings have increased for the past 20 years. And if there's a threat that's made to one of our schools, the sheriff's department is able to investigate that threat, get a warrant to verify whether the threat had any legitimacy. Our security staff can't do that. The deputies take a look at human trafficking. I was at a meeting just this last week and said that human trafficking has not slowed down. It's actually gotten worse. Our deputies are trained to take a look at that and make sure that they spot or help deter that on our campuses. They're trained in issues of how to handle issues of hate, bullying, racism, and threats against our staff and threats against our students. Since this topic has come up, and actually since I've been on the board again, I haven't just been sitting around waiting for someone to tell me what they want me to do about this issue. I've spent hours researching and talking to people about their thoughts on defunding the police. I've talked to people who live in Minneapolis, Iowa, Texas, Portland. I've brought the topic up at meetings. I've approached people in our community, and most importantly, I've talked to members of our staff at the high school district and to students. I have listened to everyone's responses and their concerns, and I have prayed. A lot has to happen before we are at a point to make major changes, things like taking a look at social justice and what it means for the high school district to do to do to educate socially just and culturally responsive individuals? Maybe, just maybe, the Sheriff's Department is a part of that process and discussion. But I truly feel that in order to prepare our students for life, you cannot prepare a student, or anyone for that matter, for all that life throws at you by removing their every fear. You help them understand, you look into their concerns, and you work through those fears. This is a challenging world that we live in. We need to help our students address those challenges. We need to give them the tools that will help them succeed. In the meantime, the high school district has taken great pains to build a multi-layered safety program, a safety program that protects our students and staff. There were many people who talked about the needs that needed to happen, and I don't think that they realize that the high school district has done quite a bit of work. There is a booklet that I've just kind of skimmed through and would like to take a look at a little bit more, but the entire booklet is about social and emotional supports that the high school district gives its students. It might be something people might want to ask for, because it's very interesting to see how much money and actually how much time and effort and hope goes into helping these students. As a board member, I take the education of our students very seriously. I take the responsibility of providing a safe environment for students and staff very, very seriously. You know, it wasn't too long ago that Mr. Bob Davis left the dais and spoke from the podium at one of the board meetings. And it was in his opinion that the board members were responsible for the safety of our students. He blamed the board by not addressing safety, that they were failing in their duty to keep students safe. I never want anyone to point their finger at me and say I did not do all I could to protect their child. We have students coming back to school on Monday. If I feel that the high school district has been diligent and sincere in its effort to build layers of safety and protection, how can I welcome students and staff and take away one of those vital layers of protection? I care about this district, its employees, its students, and this community. I cannot look any one of you in the eyes and say that I didn't do my best to help protect you. Bottom line, I was put in this office to keep students, to help students receive the support and opportunities to achieve. It's my responsibility to provide an atmosphere where students and staff feel safe. And I cannot do that by taking away a level of safety that has been provided by the Antelope Valley Union High School District to its students and staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nguyen. Anyone else have a comment to make at this time? Or have a question to ask?
Ms. McGrady, this is Brett Neal.
Yes.
Just, I'd like to provide the board with maybe a couple of points of clarification. As you know, that what you have before you tonight for your consideration, it is a short term. It is modified. It's an agreement with the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department, and this will to provide services for our campuses from the time that, if this agreement is approved, from the time it is approved through June 30th of 2021. So it is very short term. It is modified based off of the standard boilerplate contract language that you do have as an attachment. However, this will provide services to our district for one school resource team lead plus four, maximum of four school resource deputies for our campuses. And they will provide services for all of our campuses through June 30th. It is for 4 days a week, the 4 days in which students are on campus. So it is modified. It is short term, just for the remainder of the school year.
So Brett, they'll be rotating and kind of being mobile, going from school to school. Set up a plan to do that. Is that how that's going to work?
Yes, Mr. Rush, that is the plan. Resource officers will be assigned certain schools, and they will rotate between those schools.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
I have a comment.
Thank you.
I, like everybody else, appreciates everybody's input, and I can understand people questioning $150,000 being spent for law enforcement and challenging that and thinking that they need other services. I can get that. But what I find very troublesome is the misinformation that people are putting out there. They're talking about, since I've been on this board, I have never heard of any deputy acting inappropriately on any of campuses. There hasn't been any of those allegations, except by a select few who keep using the words excessive force, intimidation, and I really don't believe that's happening on the campuses. So let's just talk about the facts that are going on and quit bringing things up that don't exist, because that's not happening.
Thank you.
That's all.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rush. Ms. Perrell, you have anything you'd like to say?
I appreciate all the comments and listening to both sides. And me personally, I have one daughter that's in high school and I have another one that's soon to be high school. And I had this discussion with my son, and he said that because he's a victim of being severely bullied since 4th grade, and he had thoughts and tried to commit suicide. And he said that if he would have seen a deputy at the school, he felt more safe, because he said that the bullies would stop bullying him. So I do listen to all sides, but I felt very compelled to share just a little bit of what I've gone through as a parent. So I do appreciate every comment that's been made today. And I just say thank you.
Thank you so much. And I suppose I need to say something as well. I too appreciate all of the comments. Thank you for taking time to reach out to us. I just have to say, if I'm making a mistake, I feel like I have to err on the side of safety. If you're making a mistake, I have to make the mistake on the side of keeping our staff, our teachers, all of our employees, our students, everyone on the campus safe. And that's got to be our priority. Anybody else have anything else they'd like to say? Hearing nothing, we'll go for the vote. Mr. Johnson, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Perrell, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye. Dr. Ruffin is, I believe, still absent. Is that correct? Okay. Ms. Nguyen, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Rush, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye. And Ms. McGrady votes aye. So that is board members 4 with 1 absent and Mr. Johnson voting aye. Thank you very much. We now go to the board superintendent for our little talks. Mr. Johnson, do you have anything you'd like to share tonight?
I have nothing, Ms. McGrady.
Thank you, Ms. Perrell.
Yes, I also want to say thank you to all the administrators and staff, and welcome safely with all the students on this upcoming Monday. And I hope everyone has a great rest of their weekend.
Thank you. Ms. Nguyen?
Yes, I just want to say I'm excited for the students on Monday to come back. I'm excited for our staff. I know there's going to be an adjustment, and it's going to be difficult for some students and probably tiring for our staff. But thank you all for all the work that you put into making education a priority. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rush.
No, excited for school to get back on campus, and good luck, everybody, and thanks for all your hard work.
Thank you, Mr. Rush. And I too would like to welcome everyone back. Teachers, we appreciate all the work you're doing. Our classified staff, thank you for working so hard to get the campuses ready. And students, you're going to be back on campus next week. So what an exciting time. Good luck with all of that. And like everyone else, I hope you have a good weekend, the rest of your weekend. I would like to remind you before I turn it over to Dr. Vieira that we will be meeting in the boardroom on April 21st. So we will be coming back on the 21st. Dr. Vieira.
Just echo the same sentiments that have been said earlier. Again, appreciate all the comments and the time that community and staff and citizens took to submit their comments. We heard them and we'll, of course, take those into consideration with further issues that we discussed. Also, want to take a moment to welcome back the students that will be coming to us on Monday, and enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thank you. May I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Mr. Rush, thank you. I need a second.
Second from Danita.
Okay, from Ms. Nguyen, any discussion about adjournment? Hearing none, Mr. Johnson, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Perrell?
Aye.
Aye. Dr. Ruffin is absent. Ms. Nguyen?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Rush?
Aye.
Aye. And Ms. McGrady? Aye. So that is a 4-0, 4 to absent with Mr. Johnson voting with us. Goodbye. Be safe. Have a wonderful week next week, and we will see you April 21st.